Hello there, everybody. I hope you're doing well. Firstly, I want to say there was no top 10 eBay sales this week because I spent my weekend away in Newcastle. I was visiting a friend and we went to watch Newcastle versus Norwich, which was good. It's the first time I've been in a stadium in quite a while. And even though it was only a friendly, the atmosphere was good. And it was just nice to get to watch some football sort of in person. So with it being Newcastle Norwich and those two teams being Premier League, I thought it might be interesting to do my own thoughts and opinions on the upcoming Premier League season as it starts at this weekend. Now, when I was younger, I used to watch a hell of a lot of football. I used to watch all the leagues from all over the world. As I'm getting older, time gets a little bit more strained, and I only really watch the Premier League. And to be honest, I don't watch every single game, so what I'm about to say is kind of going to be my own thoughts and opinions based on some loose things that I may have read at some point. So please don't put any money on any of these predictions because I don't think they're going to be all that great. But we can revisit them in 7 months' time or whenever the season finishes and see how close I got with some of them. So I'm going to start with 20th and then work my way all the way up to first. And I'll try and be as unbiased as I possibly can, whilst wearing a Chelsea shirt in the process. So in 20th place, I've gone for Brentford. I think that's kind of an obvious choice for most people, so I'm not going to be breaking any boundaries here. I feel like it's great to see a new club. I love seeing new clubs promoted to the league, but it's always a difficult process. They run quite interestingly. They kind of have that Moneyball style sort of methods with regards to how they run the club, how they scout players and who they buy. Obviously, they're owned by a gentleman who's also, I think he also owns Midtjylland in Denmark, and they kind of share tactics and methods and whatnot, and sort of players and coaches go back and forth. I'm interested to see if Ivan Toney can replicate what he's been doing in the lower leagues in the Premier League. If he's able to even just grab 10 goals, or maybe it's a little bit more, I think Brentford could actually probably get closer towards safety. It's going to be big for him. If he is unable to do it, then it's going to be a bit of a difficult ask. But from a Chelsea fan, it's kind of nice to have another team from West London in the Premier League, with Fulham now relegated. If it wasn't for Brentford, there wouldn't be any sort of West London derby, even though it's not really a derby between Chelsea and Brentford. The last time we played each other in the league was like the 50s. So there's not going to be a rivalry as such, but it's just nice for that to happen. In 19th place, I've gone for Watford. And I feel, again, it's another easy choice, but they are one of those perennial clubs who just seem to find themselves sort of flipping between the Premier League and the Championship. They'll find themselves in the Premier League a few seasons and then the Championship and then back and forth. And I feel like it's just going to be another one of those seasons. They've been able to get Josh King from Everton, who was absolutely binned off there, totally sacked off by Ancelotti. And if he can do what he can do, he'll provide some good goals and at least bring a little bit of sort of attacking sort of nouns to the club. And they're managed by Zisco, who it'd be interesting to see how he can perform, because obviously he came at the beginning of the year to Watford, was able to sort of secure their promotion to the Premier League. It's going to be interesting to see if he's able to last the season with Watford. They're not, they're pretty famous for like getting rid of managers quite quickly, or they're not afraid to sack them off. So we'll see how they perform. I just think they're going to struggle, possibly finish last, but we'll see. In 18th place, I've got for Burnley. I think, like one man famously once said, it is time to go. They've been in the Premier League for a long time now, or relatively long time, and what they've done is nothing short of remarkable. Like, the budget that they've got is probably one of the smallest in the entire league, and the squad is one of the thinnest. But to be able to maintain their Premier League status every season and not really get drawn into too many relegation fights is absolutely an amazing achievement. Sean Dyche, what an unbelievable manager. Could he do it somewhere else? I don't know, maybe. Maybe we'll never find out. But I just feel like it's come on, it's like surely at some point something has to give. playing Burnley now, it can go either way. You can either play them and struggle to get a draw, or they'll nick something, or you play them and you win 5-0. Like, it's not as difficult as it once was, but it can still be frustrating, which is what could keep them in the league like it usually does every season. They bought Nathan Collins for like 12 million or something like that, which is probably quite a decent amount of money for Burnley. So possibly he may help them sort of get into sort of a safer zone. But I think it's partly me wishing that they go down and partly thinking this could be the season that they get relegated. So the team that I feel like is just going to be safe is Norwich. Norwich, similar to Watford, are another team that sort of bounces and yo-yos between the Premier League and the Championship. And I got to see them sort of when we watched them against Newcastle. And the first half they looked good. Newcastle looked terrible, but Norwich looked good. But I felt like in the middle of the park they were strong, and partly. And this is maybe because I'm a Chelsea fan, but Billy Gilmour in the centre, for someone who's so young, he controlled that game. Like, he was telling the players where to go, where to pass, and he always wanted the ball. So that's exciting for a Chelsea fan because he's clearly a talent, and I hope that he plays a good role in Norwich's season. But when they got to the box, they didn't really have any ideas what to do. Even when Pukki came on, it was like they're going to struggle. So I don't see them getting all that many goals, but for whatever reason, there's just something about them. I feel like it's going to be okay. If they can keep Cantwell, then they have a better chance. If he goes like Buendia has gone to Villa, then it's going to be exceptionally difficult because Buendia was such an amazing player for them. But I think with Farke as the manager, I think they could maybe just stay this time. It won't be easy and it won't be nice, but they will just do it. Next, I have Newcastle, so the other team that Norwich played against. And I feel like this is just going to be them for eternity now. They're going to be having rough season. They're going to get a couple of good results, a couple of terrible results, but they won't get relegated as much as Mike Ashley probably wants them to do. Steve Bruce is the manager. Is he going to be there all season? Who knows? He seems to just be able to get these results, and even though the Newcastle fans probably kind of hate it, they don't do too badly. I think like if Wilson stays fit, there can be goals there. Saint-Maximin is clearly their best player. Like when he came on in the second half against Norwich, the game changed. Like he didn't even have to do anything with the ball. As soon as the ball came to his feet, the crowd, the spirits went up, the atmosphere increased, and it was like, yes, something's going to happen. And it kind of did. He was really good. So if they can keep him sort of interested in the game, keep him fit, then he will probably single-handedly keep them up. Willock, it looks like at the time of sort of at least recording, they are looking likely to get him from Arsenal, which is going to be useful because towards the end of the season, he was probably their most important player, getting quite a decent amount of goals and some victories. So they're going to be spending a decent amount of money on him, but he's already proven, at least at Newcastle, so he should be able to just sort of slot back in again, but maybe he might just sort of find himself struggling, and he just got a bit lucky. And that's kind of it, really. So I feel like they've got just enough to get sort of do okay, and they beat Norwich 3-0 in the friendly, so you know they have a little something. Then I have Brighton in 15th. Something about Brighton, I don't know if I said they're okay. They're okay. The loss of Ben White is big because he obviously was one of their better players. They did get a good amount of money for him, but are they going to reinvest that into similar players? Probably not. They'll pick up a few sort of decent squad players. I do rate Mr. Potter as a manager. I thought maybe he was going to move up with all the managers moving around, that he maybe gone to even maybe Spurs. But I think give him another season at Brighton and see how it goes. If he gets relegated, then okay. But I think he could maybe push him a little bit higher. I don't think that they're in a sort of a situation where they're going to be struggling. And with players like Basuma and Lamptey, they've got enough skills and quality there that I think they should be decent enough to get sort of further away from the relegation zone. Next, in 14th, I have Southampton. They're one of those clubs where you never know what they're going to do. Sometimes they're really good and sometimes they're just terrible. So I've gone for 14th because I feel like they're not going to be in too much trouble, but they're not going to be doing anything spectacular. The loss of Ings is going to be difficult. That's a lot of goals to try and replace. And re-signing Theo Walcott is not going to be the guy who's going to do that for them. He hasn't really done anything in 5 years, but having him around the club might be useful. They did sign, though, Livramento. So those of you who aren't Chelsea fans might be thinking, I don't really know much about this guy. He's a really highly rated fullback. And unfortunately for him, he plays in a position where we have Reece James, we have Azpilicueta, we could be getting Koundé in, who sort of plays right back and sort of centre back. He's not going to get any game time. And for somebody who's got a high ceiling, or potentially to have a high ceiling, he needs to be playing game time. And as much as I didn't want him to leave, it had to happen. So going to play for Southampton, I think that could be quite a good one. But I guess we'll find out as the season progresses. Next, I've gone for Crystal Palace. I have no idea what's going to happen with Crystal Palace season. It's going to be entertaining, I think. So obviously they've got a new manager in Patrick Vieira, and he's one of those signings where it's like, this is going to be either really inspired or an absolute car crash. Clearly, he's a great player, and he should have a great sort of amount of ideas to implement. But there's something in the back of my head where I just think, is this another De Boer situation, and it's just going to go wrong? I guess time will only tell. Similar to the Southampton and quite a lot of other clubs, they've got a couple of Chelsea youngsters. So they got Guehi, the centre back, highly rated, and they spent quite a decent amount of money on him. But similar to Livramento, he was always going to struggle to get into the sort of first team. I mean, we sold Tomori to AC Milan, and he was already ahead of Guehi, so it was only fair to let him go as well. So it'd be interesting to see if he can shore up the defence. And they got Conor Gallagher on loan from Chelsea, so that's another person to look out for. Eze's injured, kind of probably one of their better players. The sooner he gets back to full fitness, the better for them, because he clearly brings on a little bit of something different. So if he comes back earlier, then they will have a better season. But they do play Chelsea first, so if they are going to have a good season, they can do it after they've lost to Chelsea in the first game. Next is Wolves. Wolves, I'm bored with Wolves right now. I'm really bored. When they first got into the Premier League, and yes, they have a lot of money, they did really well, and they give everybody a hard game. It made no difference to your Chelsea, Man City, Man United. They really pushed it, and they had a great results against the top six. And then they kind of stagnated. A lot of their players that they were sort of relying on have kind of gone off the boil a bit. Players like Traore, he is absolutely built to be an amazing football player, but they forgot to put the brain on him. So over the last season or so, he's become one of those players where you kind of think, he's kind of good, but I'm not all that worried about him. So if he can regain a bit of form, that would be quite useful, but I don't know what it is about them. They just don't do anything for me. So obviously they got rid of Nuno, sort of a mutual termination there. Could it be that he only took them as far as he could and he couldn't do anything more with them? So they got Bruno Lage in from Benfica. Of course, it's Portuguese. And he finished third with Benfica, which was kind of the bare minimum you'd expect for a Portuguese team to finish. So it's like, he's not one of the best Benfica managers of all time. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. Because I don't really know much about him. So if he does well done. But I'm not really expecting anything too spectacular. They got Trincao on loan from Barcelona on loan. Barca spent a lot of money on him, but hasn't really performed. So possibly he could be another one of those players that Wolves gets and just also disappears into the darkness. They got rid of Patricio as goalkeeper, and they got in Sarr from Olympiacos. So goalkeeper for goalkeeper, probably not going to make much difference there. Next, I have Everton. Everton in 11th place. Everton are very similar to Wolves. They're just boring to me now. They have so much drama every season, and this season is just the same thing again. So we start with, of course, Benitez as the manager. Some Everton fans despise this. I don't quite know what the club's thinking. I understand, yes, Benitez is a name, but it's not 15 years ago Benitez. It's not even 5 years ago Benitez. So it's like, are you sure that he was the best person to get in? And then with regards to transfers, at least at the time of recording, they've done nothing. Andros Townsend, they've got Begovic, and they spent a little bit of money on Gray, like a couple of million. I mean, that's not going to be doing too much, is it? Throw in the fact that they've got the whole Sigurdsson thing going on, and he's probably not going to be available for too many games this season. And when he does play, if he does play, that's not going to go down too greatly, probably. But what they do have going for them is they have a decent squad of names, and then they've got players like Calvert-Lewin, who, if they can get the ball to him and he can kind of replicate what he's been doing, his goals will get them away from any danger and probably straight to mid-table. I don't think, unless he has a ridiculous season, that they will get into Europe again. But anything's possible. And for those of you who watch the Euros and focus on England, Pickford was probably quite impressed by a lot of the sort of fans. He did really well, was one of England's standout players, but when it comes to Everton, he can kind of let things get to his head a little bit, and he gets a little bit too crazy. So can they rely on him? I guess we'll see how it goes for him as the season unravels. Next is Leeds United. Are they going to have another second season sort of syndrome that happens to a lot of clubs? I don't think so. So it probably will happen now. They just have an amazing style of play. Like, they don't care. They're like, we're going to press you, and you could beat us 4-0, or we could beat you 3-0. It's going to happen, one of those two things, and they will just keep doing it. And they got some great results against a lot of the bigger teams. And I feel like if they maintain it and they're not totally just absolutely drained and wrecked from last season, then why not? They got Firpo in from Barcelona, and they finally signed Harrison, who's been on loan for 3 years from Manchester City. So that's some good deals there. They've got Lewis Bate on loan in from Chelsea. I don't think he's going to be too great, to be honest, but we'll see. And any club that's managed by Bielsa has a chance to do some great things. And I think if Leeds finish mid-table again, that's an amazing achievement for a club that's, yes, historically a Premier League team, but has only been in the club this season in the Premier League for a couple of seasons now. So in ninth place, we have Arsenal. Like, what do you want me to say? Like, that's where they are right now. I'm sorry, but that is exactly where you are. Arteta as a manager, I just still don't rate. I don't think Arsenal fans kind of rate. Maybe they do now. I don't know. I just feel like he's not the best person for the job. Honestly, I don't know who is. But surely there's someone better than Arteta out there. Like, surely. I don't know. Not surely, literally surely. Of course, they signed Ben White. A lot of money. And defensively, they've always had sort of a bit of an issue with regards to that style. But there's a lot of holes to fill up, and he's only going to plug a few of those. So we'll see. Maybe it will be inspired, but I feel like they need more than just a defender to come in and sort of save the day. They got Lokonga, and I will admit to you, I have absolutely no idea who he is. They spent a decent amount of money on him, and he could be an amazing player, or just another one of those Arsenal players that sort of drifts away into darkness again for 6 months. So, Arsenal fans, you can tell me if it's going to be good or not. I honestly don't know. David Luiz has gone. What a travesty. All the Arsenal fans are going to miss those long-range free kicks into the wall or out of the stadium. How are they going to miss that? Aubameyang. Last season was his worst season for a long time, goal-scoring wise. He's got his bumper contract. He needs to prove it to the Arsenal fans that he has it. If he does what he usually does, then fine. They could push a little bit further up the table. But if he's like going all Ozil on them, then it's going to be a difficult season. But on a side, as much as I don't like Arsenal, for Saka, I would like him to have a sort of individually a good season, just because of the unfortunate nature of him missing the winning penalty or missing the decisive penalty in the Euros. I'd like him to have a good season at least, just for his own sort of progression. Next, we have West Ham. I don't think they're going to be quite as good as they did last season, but still top half. And I think that's purely going to be down to Moyes. Moyes, I think, has found his level again. And Moyes is anything if not consistent. When he was at Everton, he was just consistent with it. And I think he's going to sort of bring that to West Ham. I think they've not made any transfers yet, which is going to be tough. I'm not 100% sure who they've been linked with, and surely they're going to be making some. They have to make some transfers in because the squad is good and it's decent, but they've got rid of a few sort of fringe players or players that were not as reliable, like Anderson and Balbuena. But they need to make some signings, I think, or else they may find themselves dropping a little bit further down than eighth. Players like Declan Rice, if they can keep Rice, he's such an amazing and important player for them. I think it's just sort of Chelsea that's sniffing around him. As a Chelsea fan, I wouldn't say no to him. It's probably going to cost a lot of money, but it's one of those players where if we don't get him, it's not going to be the end of the world. So I've not seen anything super concrete that he's going to be leaving, so that could go either way. And then someone like Yarmolenko, who had a good Euros, this is his chance to shine, but I feel like he's one of those players where he will only do it for a few times of the season, then he will disappear. So we'll see what happens with them. Next, I have Aston Villa. I did want to position them a little bit higher because I think they've been really smart with their transfer window, and the squad is actually really nice. But I just think because of the teams above them, they've got a little bit more experience. Aston Villa should be probably really happy with 7th. Grealish, of course, is the biggest sort of talking point, losing him. But they got an amazing amount of money for him, and they've invested it well. Grealish was clearly their best player, and he's probably one of their best ever players. But he's never been proven at that top level. Like him being there, is that going? If I'm saying they're going to finish 7th, are they going to finish 6th and 5th? I don't think so. So I think getting rid of him for 100 million is probably a good deal for Aston Villa in the long term. Just imagine thinking about that 2 years ago. 100 million for him probably would have snapped their hand off. And then they've sort of really invested very well. So you've got Buendia, you've got Bailey, you've got Danny Ings, Ashley Young. These are sort of really good players where I think those collectively are better than the individual of Grealish, as much as he's an amazing player. And I don't really care about any other club, but I do have a little bit of a soft spot for Aston Villa. I used to play with them a lot on Football Manager, so I do kind of like to see them do okay. But they have lost John Terry as the assistant manager, so maybe he was the glue that would keep them all together, and it could be curtains for them. Top 6 now. I've gone for Spurs. Sorry, Spurs, but I'm going to give you a sixth place. I did want to make them a little bit lower, mainly because I hate Spurs, but I think that's reasonable. Of course, this is all dependent on Kane. If Kane can stay, then they have a chance of pushing a little bit higher. If Kane goes, they are going to be in a tough place. Like, you cannot replace that level of goals. Like, if you try and replace Kane, you're going to need to bring Lukaku. Sorry, that ain't happening. Haaland, Mbappe, no chance. And Lewandowski, So it's already going to be a downgrade. And they're linked with Lautaro Martinez, and yes, he's a great player, and he's good, absolutely probably going to do really well for them. It's not Harry Kane. So depending on how that goes, how long it drags out for, if he goes, if he stays, that will really be a big sort of influence on the season. Son obviously signed a new contract, which is good for the Spurs fans because he's behind Kane, probably their most important player. Contributes with not just assists but with goals. He's got an amazing work rate. So if they can keep him fit then and not sent off, then that would be very good for them. They bought Gil, and also sort of swapped Lamela the other way. I can't remember seeing too much of him at Sevilla. We played against them in the Champions League. I don't know if he did anything. They didn't really do anything as a club. So we'll see what happens there. Of course, they've got a new manager. They've got Nuno from Wolves. And because I was thinking, had he taken Wolves to the highest level possible, is he going to be even good enough to do Spurs? I guess we'll find out. He does have a good reputation, and it will be interesting to see what he's done. And I think he does deserve a shot at Spurs, but I don't think he's going to be doing anything too spectacular. But who knows in that respects? And they've got on loan Romero from Atlanta with potential to. I think the Juventus is it now. I don't know who owns him officially. With potential to buy, so that's a centre back that they've kind of sorely been needing. And then 5th place, I've gone for Leicester. Sorry, Leicester. I think you're just going to miss out again just based on lack of experience, certainly compared to the 4 teams above them. I think when you've got Rodgers as a manager, you've got a great manager there. He's found his level perfectly. He knows how to set up the squad. I just think that they just need to get that last couple of months sorted, and then they'll get top 4. Like, they'll do great until Christmas. They might have a few rocky periods, but I think they're going to do just okay. I feel like they've done some amazing signings once again. They've got Daka from Salzburg. I mean, the last high scoring striker from Salzburg turned out quite well. They've got Samare from Lille, the French champions. Again, I feel that's going to be one of those players where he's going to sign and then 2 years later, Man United are going to buy him for like 65 million. It's one of those Leicester things. And of course, they just beat Man City in the Community Shield, so they are going to be going strong again. It's not going to be a bad season for them. I just think they might just miss out on the top 4, but don't be surprised if they do reach it. In 4th place, so the top 4, Liverpool. And not because I hate Liverpool, I just think that the 3 teams above them, again, are just a little bit better. Of course, probably the biggest news for them is the return of Van Dijk. Probably the best player in Liverpool's squad, one of the best players in the Premier League. Question, of course, is will his injury cause any issues with regards to his ability? Is he going to get back to that high level he once was? Even if he doesn't, he gets to 80%. That's probably still better than any of Liverpool's defenders that they currently have right now, even though they did sign Konate from Leipzig for 35 million, which I think is a smart signing, young player that they can sort of mould into something a little bit better, and Van Dijk can teach. If they can avoid all injuries like they did last season, because quite clearly it was just like horrific, then they will do much better. And they did finish top 4 last season, so there's no reason why they can't do that again. Jota, I think, is going to be one of those players that is going to be really important for them. I feel like he's going to get a lot of goals. They need him to get a lot of goals. They need a striker. I'm sorry, Firmino, I don't get it. Do not get it. Liverpool fans, you might be able to tell me otherwise, but I just don't get it whatsoever. And they've had some players sign some contracts recently. Fabinho, Trent, Alisson, they've signed contracts, so that's good that they're sort of signed up for a couple of seasons ahead at the very least. That's good for morale. The only loss is probably Wijnaldum. Him going to PSG, well, that was obviously a good idea for him because he's joined the right team there. So the midfield is possibly the weakest point right now. So that's probably where they're going to drop off a little bit, but anything is possible with Klopp in charge. 3rd place, Manchester United. I can see them coming 2nd. Can I see them winning the Premier League? It's going to be tough. So they've done some great signings. Sancho is a great signing, an amazing player. Interesting that he's gone Man United when he's a Man City lad and sort of Chelsea fan and whatnot, but that was a great signing. Totally cockblocked us from signing Haaland, but whatever, that's fine. They are getting Varane. It's not official, but it's happening. So a defensive pairing of Varane and Maguire, that's pretty solid, that is. If they can sort of work together and don't get injured, then that is a strong centre-back pairing. They have Cavani. For me, Cavani is one of my favourite players. I loved watching him at Napoli and then PSG, I suppose, and Man United, I guess. He's just got so much experience and he's an absolute finisher. He's clinical. And if they can keep him sort of fit and interested, then he's going to get plenty of goals. Pogba. I don't need to say anything else about Pogba. We all know how we feel about him. Clearly talented, but just doesn't really do anything. Depending on what Pogba feels, how often he feels like he wants to play, will determine if they do well. He was linked with PSG, but surely they can't be getting him as well. So they're probably going to be stuck with him for at least another season. Solskjaer as the manager. I mean, he's been there long enough now. He's done okay. He's done well. He's not won anything, I don't think, officially, but he's getting them performing okay. Signed a new contract. There's going to be periods of the season where he's not going to be doing too well, but then there's going to be seasons where part of the season where he's going to be doing really well. So it's kind of one of those weird ones where you kind of think, I have just still no idea how to take him. I think Rashford, similar to the Saka thing, unfortunate in the Euros. I think this should be the season that he kicks on. Is he going to use that as inspiration? Quite possibly. I guess we'll see as it goes ahead. Top two. So we're left with Chelsea and Man City, Champions League finalists of the season previous. Who am I going to have finishing second? I've gone with Chelsea. I've gone with Chelsea second. As much as I would like to put them first, and I don't think anybody would say it's impossible for them to finish first, I've gone for second. So, of course, they've got Tuchel as a manager, and I can talk about Chelsea forever, so I'll try and be brief. Tuchel's one of those managers where he has such a good sort of just outlook on life, and he's just really positive, and he knows what he's doing, and he's not afraid to sort of say things to players, like, no, you need to do this. I'm really excited with him managing a full season. I really hope he doesn't leave at the end of the season or gets sacked. That would be so devastating. But we'll see. I mean, we are the champions of Europe. We are the champions of Europe. So that does go and save something. Like, if you win the Champions League, now I know it's a different format. Anybody can win a one-off game or a two-legged affair. But we can win the Premier League. Certainly can finish second. Lukaku, at the time of writing, I think it's just time of filming, I think he's just done his medical, so I mean, that looks like, unless it's something terrible happens, that's going to happen. He's coming back to the club. We're spending a hell of a lot of money on him. I might even want him to do like 40 goals. Just do 25. Please break the curse. I want a striker that we can just look back on and go, yes, an absolute threat. I always get my hopes up, and I have already. I guess we'll see what happens. Koundé, the Sevilla defender, looks like that we're still trying to get that. It's just trying to sort of finalise the last bit of details. That's good because we need a little bit more manpower in defence, and he's young. And we have Man City's number. We beat them in the league, FA Cup, Champions League. We can beat any team in the Premier League. I just think it's a long season. We're going to be in a lot of trophies. We can't win everything. I think second's fair, and then we can push on the season afterwards. Yeah. So, of course, that means I've got Man City to be the champions. I mean, they're the current title defenders, so usually if you're holding the trophy, it's probably best to have you as favourites, unless you're Inter Milan. They have probably the best squad, though it's not too close off Chelsea's, I would say. Of course, they've signed Grealish. Is involvement and addition to the squad going to make them unstoppable? No, I don't think so. Would signing Kane make them unstoppable? Yes. So, depending if they get Kane, I think that they may absolutely destroy the Premier League, or they will be pushed hard by Chelsea and Manchester United, I think. I guess if they don't get Kane, it's going to be interesting because they got Gabriel Jesus. Obviously, Aguero's left. I don't really rate Jesus, but whatever. He's apparently not too keen to even be at the club anyway. And I know as much Pep doesn't care for even using strikers. He plays De Bruyne up front. He'll probably put Sterling there. He'll probably put Kyle Walker there before he plays, a striker. Having Kane would be just an amazing purchase, and that would be game over for everybody else. But quite clearly they want in the Champions League. They're going to be hurting from Chelsea beating them. That's their big focus. They've been winning the Premier League, quite comfortably for, last few years. Maybe that's what might screw them over, and they might finish second and Chelsea might pit them. But I think right now they will finish first. If they get Kane, they will finish first. But that's kind of it, really. That's the Premier League. Like I said, this is a bit of fun. I can't guarantee that this is ever going to happen. We'll look back at this in 7 months' time or whenever the season finishes and see how far wrong we got. There's probably going to be a club that's going to really underperform, and there's going to be a club that's going to really surprise and overperform. I guess we'll find out as the season progresses, really. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed this little bit of different content. On Friday, I will have a new shirt for you guys to see and open. And I'm really looking forward to Premier League starting again. Back to some club football. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next video.